Welcome back to Blacksheep Barbell Podcast. On today's episode, we're going to be talking with James Strickland about bench press, which is fitting because Benchweek just ended last month.
Yeah.
So James transitioned from a swimmer for 15 years into getting into powerlifting and seeing a lot of success in the bench press. James currently holds a 672-pound bench.
I know. I can't even fathom that. I can't even fathom deadlifting that. So
Or squatting that, nor can anybody else or majority of people.
Yeah, I know. It's just insane just going from swimming to powerlifting and being that strong. I would just never think that. So we're going to have a great conversation with James. Welcome to the show.
So obviously I know with you, bench is kind of your forte, right? You got a 672-pound raw bench.
Yep, a little bit.
That's insane, man.
How was it like working up to that? Like how long were you training to hit that?
So I'll be honest, I kind of fell into powerlifting and honestly bench shortly after I stopped about a 15-year career with swimming and didn't even know that bench was in the cards for me. Essentially, I just started, I stopped swimming, started getting some weight on me, and I was like, I really don't like not having a six-pack and not having that streamlined athletic look. And so I basically got with a personal trainer that I kind of knew of that was living at an apartment complex that I was, and a real big guy. I didn't realize at the time that he had a 500-plus pound bench press, touch and go, but all the things wasn't powerlifting standards. But I didn't know that was ungodly strong. I just came in there and said, well, I currently have a 300-pound bench. I'm looking to lose a little bit of weight. Look like you know what you're doing. I just need somebody to kind of stay around with and kind of piggyback off of. And if you guys can help me to get a little bit stronger, then let's do it. And started going religiously pretty much 2 to 3 times a week. And my bench went from 300 to 455 in less than a year.
Wow.
I had no idea that was even phenomenal to any degree. I just was like, okay, I'm trying to keep up with these guys that I'm training with. That's what they're doing. It just seemed normal to me. It wasn't until I started posting videos on YouTube for my then 5-year-old son, so that when he is, 10 years older, an adult, and I'm like, hey, your dad used to be able to do 500 pounds back in the day, it would be like video or it didn't happen. So here's your video.
Yeah.
And so I just started posting up on YouTube and became a YouTube sensation literally overnight. And I had people basically saying those are fake weights. There's no way you're doing that much weight. Your body weight's too small. You'd be a world champion if you were to have that kind of bench press. And so I started kind of processing all these comments and going, I know they're trying to troll me out right here, but I'm taking them as a challenge. And one guy goes, yeah, you might have a 530 touch and go if you're claiming that you got 605 in the, at a 24-hour fitness. And the whole time I'm thinking, I know what I'm doing. I know how much weight I'm doing. And I know it's ungodly hard, but it was looking easy because I was practicing so much.
Yeah.
And so essentially I got called out, and somebody in the comments, you can actually look this up. It's, if you look up Swim Hack 605 on YouTube, it's 2012. I did it December 24th. It was a Christmas Eve. And I went with my buddy, Jeff Yonker, who is also a 2,100 plus pound total powerlifter to this day.
Wow.
He's inching up there, getting close to 6. I think his best is just over 5 in a meet. But in training, obviously we're talking 6.
Mm-hmm.
And, he was the one spotting me out. And yes, it was heavily touched and all the things. It wasn't powerlifting quality, but doing 605 pounds that was probably the 3rd time that I did it. And I knew what I did. And somebody goes, hey, if you actually did that in a powerlifting competition, you would have the world record for your weight class. And I thought, no way. There's absolutely no way. So I started Googling, I started searching around and going, okay, what's the Guinness Book of World Records? I didn't know what records were. So I was like, If it's a world record, it must be a Guinness or whatever. And I started seeing like 700, 800, 900,000. I'm like, what are these people talking about? World record? I don't have a world record. I've got a 600 pound bench. So it humbled me a little bit. And then I kind of went back to work, put my head down and continued posting videos just because it was cool and people liked it and it was getting some views. And I was kind of getting a taste of social media fame, I guess. And next thing I know, I'm doing like 620, 630 in the gym. And I finally got a chance to do a powerlifting meet with the team that I was training with. They were like, hey, we're going to start a powerlifting team. Now, mind you, this is fast forward probably almost a year after I had done the 605. And I had pretty much quit lifting because I was like, I'm too bulky. There's no reason to be almost 300 pounds. I'm a web designer. I don't need to be that big. I really don't need to be that strong. And to me, it wasn't that hard, I guess, relatively. It wasn't that hard to be able to bench 600 pounds because I had this raw talent inside of me. And I didn't know, my mind was not saying that's freaking impossible. There's no way you're going to get that because I'd already done it.
Yeah.
So I'd really just kind of stopped at that point, and I was willing to just walk away from it all. And this team of mine that I was with, or that I ended up joining, they called me out on Facebook and say, hey, we're starting a powerlifting team. You really should get in there and bench. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds cool. Let's do it. And I even had a couple of them go, dude, we haven't seen you in like 9 months. Like, are you even still lifting? And I had lost a ton of weight. I went from 275 when I was benching that much. I literally stopped all weights for 9 months, and I shrunk to about I think the lowest I got was 232.
Wow.
And I couldn't lose any more weight because it was literally just solid muscle. I was so lean and I looked good. I was fast again. I went back to swimming, and I was just all cardioed out. And I think I had gone into the weight room one morning after I did a swim, and I was like, I'm curious where I'm at right now. And I worked up and I did like 405 for 2, and it was excruciatingly heavy. And I thought, oh, there's no way I'm going to be able to bench over 600. That was the like the end goal was, if I was going to start powerlifting, I had to get a 600-pound bench on the record books, and then I could say, I'm done. I proved all you people wrong. What's next? Who cares? And that was the plan. So I went into my first meet, and it was December 6th, 2014. So about two and a half years, or about 2 years or so after I had actually benched that 605. So I was really, really, I guess we could say, raw. And I had been, really lifting it all. And I went back to these guys and started training again and kind of working up. And I got up to over 500. That was kind of the standard at the time, which is really weird to say because now I'm going, and we'll get to this point, but I'm kind of in a different era right now on my lifting where I'm back to where 500 feels super freaking heavy again. It's been a while since I've been there, but essentially the first meet I was going after Wayne Van Noordstrand. If you guys don't know him, check him out. He is a super strong guy. He's a little bit older, but he was the only guy that I saw out there that was doing anything super freaking heavy. Him, Jeremy Hornstra, Derek Kendall, just kind of name dropping a few names that I was kind of looking up on YouTube as I was coming up. And those were the guys I was like, okay, if they could do 585, surely I can. I mean, I wasn't saying that they were weak or that, I'm better than them, but I was like, I know that I've handled 605 pounds with the hex plates, and I know these are freaking heavy plates. And I know what I felt like when I was doing it. I know I can get there again. Now, in a competition, I don't know. And that was the goal. So the first meet, it was in Texas, in Orange. It's like far east Texas, and right on the border of Texas and Louisiana. And it was at this little hotel. And I remember going into the meet real cocky inside. I wasn't necessarily, talking.
Just having that confidence.
I was just like, okay, I've got to come in here and I've got to take down this record, and this record. And these 3 attempts will give me darn near, I think 585 was the national record that I was going after, which was Wayne Van Noordstrand's record. And I thought, that looked pretty freaking crazy, all those plates. And that was the goal for that meet. Excuse me. So I opened up with 474, which literally got smoked. But because it had commands and all that stuff, it was really difficult to push that like it was easy. And so that's literally the only lift that I got out of bench. I say that because I did a full meet. I was called out like, okay, if you're going to do bench press, you can't just be a bench presser. You got to, prove that you can squat and deadlift. So I knew that my squat, I could probably, on a good day, not buried. I was probably at 500 at the time. My deadlift about the same. I was having some form issues at the time, and my deadlift sucked as far as how I was lifting the weight. I was just muscling it up. I mean, with a strong back, you can do that, but
Yeah.
it looked really, really bad looking back at my form. Um, so I went into the meet with kind of a hurt back from lifting the wrong way. Bench went fine as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I got the state record for Texas with the 474. My second attempt, I jumped to like 520, which was way too much of a jump for my first meet. And the goal was to go 474, get my feet wet, 520, and then jump straight to 585, which I was so confident that was going to happen. I was like, don't tell me anything else. And I got buried on the second attempt, couldn't get it off my chest. And third attempt, I don't even think I did not try 585. I think I went for 530 or something and get that. Very, very humbled because I was like, wow, I'm not as strong as I thought I was. And I mean, mind you, I get what the numbers are, but in my head, I was a 600 plus pound bencher. And if I did anything less than that, I was failing. And so, but my squat at that meet was like 225, 230. It was as much as I could get while my lower back was just like on fire. And I was like, nope, you're not working out today. And I had a freaking meet. Another interesting part of that is I took 2 scoops of pre-workout before every single lift of that meet.
Really?
Oh, wow. Oh, wait, so each lift individually?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
How much caffeine are we talking about there?
Well, this is the old Jack 3D days where it was the
Oh boy,
1,3 dimethylene and all the band stuff. And I took 2 scoops before my warm-ups, getting amped up right before my first squat. I was like, God, I don't know if I got this. So I'm taking, pre-workout, trying to get amped up. And it didn't bother me until awards. And 6 hours later, I ran outside literally like a second after them putting the medal over my neck. And I ran straight out the back door and puked my guts up. And I was feeling all of it. I was like, this sucks, man. I didn't realize it was the pre-workout until I was telling my workout partner. I was like, dude, yeah, I took like 2 scoops of pre-work on every freaking lift. He's like, dude, you're glad you grew up. You would have been dead, man.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next day was horrible. I was like hungover from all the
pre-workout.
I remember we were doing some family photos. I'm skipping around here, but like the next day, and I'm trying to be like a dad, and I'm just like, because I'm sore from a workout, from all of the lifts and everything. And I had never done a meet before, so I didn't do that much lifting in one day, putting it all on the line. So that next day was kind of like a reflection on, do I really want to keep doing this? Like, this is a really tough sport. But that was the start of my official powerlifting career.
Nice.
But a lot of stuff has happened since then, and feel free to ask any questions or whatever you guys want to know between there and now.
Yeah, that's an incredible start, though. I mean, you said you were just swimming, right? And then you just decided to start focusing on that bench press, and you gained that much strength with it.
Pretty much,
that's
yeah.
Awesome.
I've always been pretty active. My whole life, I've either played baseball or soccer or some sort of sport. When I started high school, and this is part of the story I don't really tell a lot, but I'm open to anything. I was a pretty wild kid. I had ADHD, hyperactivity, all the diagnosis and stuff. Grew up without a dad, so I didn't have a real strong disciplinarian at home. And being very strong-willed and just like, hey, you cannot tell me no kind of attitude. When I was a kid, it was kind of cumbersome because a teacher would come in and be like, Mr. Strickland, you need to sit down. And I'd be like, why don't you sit down? And I'd end up in the office and wondering why the whole world is against me. I'm like, you can't be a jerk to me and expect me just to respect you. Like I talked so much crap, And it's just like, it's coming back to get me now because I've got kids.
Yeah.
It goes around, comes around.
But the difference is they have me. I did not have me. If I would have had me, it would have been
Right.
a whole different story. Probably would have been a lot stronger.
Yeah, that is a crazy transition too from doing swimming, you said, for like 15 years and then getting into powerlifting and benching and then seeing that much strength. I mean, I don't know if I've heard of anybody that started as a swimmer and made that much progress within powerlifting.
Check out if you guys have heard of Jeremy Hornstra.
Mm-hmm.
He has got a 672-pound bench at 242. He still got the all-time record. He still has the all-time record for 275 at 675. So he's a beast. I've been chasing him for a while. In fact, when I did the Tuscaloosa, Alabama meet with Jeremy, and this was when Julius was still coming up, trying to break
Mm-hmm.
700. There was four of us: Robert Wilkerson, myself, Jeremy Hornstra, and Julius Maddox, and we all three of us did 661 or better at that meet, and that was the meet that I had 670. Yeah, I think it was 672 on the bar after it was a fourth attempt to try to break the world record. And I remember Jeremy Hornstra was literally sitting like 2 feet away. He's like, "Man, I want you to break this record." I got close, but not close enough. I just tell you, it was
Right.
difficult. I mean, and I was weighing about 266.
Mm-hmm.
That was a ton of weight to try to push, and didn't quite get it. And I got it to the top, and just kind of it collapsed on me. Of course, if you go any downward motion, it's a non-lift anyways, and the judge just
Yeah.
grabbed it. But that was a fun meet. So check out Jeremy Hornstra if you haven't.
Yeah,
He-
I've definitely seen him before.
You were chasing 700 for a while, weren't you?
Yeah. Yep. So the natural progression, at least in my mind, was okay. I attempted 672, or I got 672. I attempted 701 to try to break Scott Mendelson's 20-plus year record. Didn't get that up, and the goal at that point was, hey, I've touched 700 at a meet. That's the next goal. So it never slowed down, and it never went from, okay, well, 672, I need to go to 675, and then go to 683, and then maybe
Yeah.
690 and go up, which probably would have been a better strategy looking back on hindsight. But I mean, when your ego, and I'd say ego carefully, because I don't ever try to lift with ego and not try to lift smart, but when you're already pushing 675 in the gym, it's not much to go, 725 pounds. If I really get a good warm up and I hit the right attempts, it's going to go down. I mean, knowing what I knew and how everything felt when I attempted the 702 to break 701, it got so close to lockout. It's basically like what Julius is doing with that 800. He's toying around with it. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of him having a perfect training cycle, all the things lining up. It will happen. It's not a matter of, if this, if that. I mean, obviously life can get in the way. Things can happen, and your body can fight you on things. You can get sick. All these things can happen. But if everything stays perfect, there's no reason that shouldn't fall and just get demolished. So,
Right. And I was going to say, dealing with weights that heavy, it's like everything has to be perfect, I'm assuming. Form, recovery. I mean, once you start getting to those high weights, I mean, there's like a lot of risk as well. So it seems like everything has to be dialed in.
yep. I always I make the analogy of like a car. A lot of the guys that lift, they like cars, they like motors, they like superchargers and all the things that come with it. But it's like if you take a really really nice GTR to the track and you've got slicks on it and the track is slick, it's not going to stick. You're not going to have any traction. You're not going to be able to put all that power down. You're going to make a lot of noise. You can look really good, but it's just not going to go down the track as fast as you want, which means you're not going to hit the number that you're trying to hit if you don't have everything dialed in and perfect. So, I mean, if your brakes aren't perfect, everything has got to be dialed in. And I guess maybe it's naive to say that everything has to be dialed in 100%, because there's been times when I've been like, I'm not really into this right now, but you know what? I'm just going to push it up, and I could smash a weight that I didn't deserve to really push that kind of weight on that particular day.
Mm-hmm.
I think looking back on it, the first time I hit 633 in a meet, Was coming back from the first time I broke 600 officially in competition was I can get all the dates, but it was a Las Vegas meet, or it was in Las Vegas. It was a USPA national meet at the whatever the hotel, the Golden something, Golden Nugget at downtown in downtown Las Vegas, and it was a full power meet. I squatted, I think, just shy of 600 pounds. The goal was like 1,800 total at that meet, so it was like 666, and
Mm-hmm.
I squatted 600. I benched 611 at that meet because I went through like 530 opener, I think 560 as a second, 590 as a third. Actually, no, I tried. Yeah, I did 600 on a third and got the record, or got my personal record. There was really no record at the time that I was taken down, but my personal goal of getting that 600 fell, and then I was like, "Can I take a fourth?" And they were like, "Yeah, it's your record now. You actually took the national record with that, so you are allowed to take a fourth." And so I went,
Yeah.
"Okay, put 611 on there. That's the natural progression to chip it a little bit." And I got the 611, and I was so ecstatic. I went back to the warm up room for deadlifts, and I was like, "All right, it's time to complete the meet. I just need to put all this down and finish the lifts. I just need to get one deadlift on the books, and I'm done. That 600 sticks." And I was warming up. 530 was my opener.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm sorry. Some let's just I'll go with 530. 530 was my opener. Uh, when I was doing the warm ups, I had pulled my back again, and I went, "Oh God, I can't even lift." The next, the opener was supposed to be 530. I think I hit 530 in the warm up room because I was still learning how to do warm ups and everything. And I went out to go lift the opener and didn't even budge it off the ground. So I
Oh wow.
Jeez.
disqualified the whole meet for myself.
Oh man.
Ah,
And it didn't really process while I was doing it. I was just like, "Oh, this sucks. I can't do it. Can't get the lift. Can't get my total." And somebody goes, "Hey, man," and this was somebody I was competing with, John Mazza. I remember you, John. And he was right there with me the whole time. I mean, he had clearly out squatted me like by 200 pounds. So he was right next to me, even though I benched like 200 pounds more than him. We were neck and neck going into deadlifts. If I would have pulled 600, I would have probably still got second by maybe 10 pounds. And so I lost miserably to him. And that was the first kind of real eye opening to my ego. Was like, okay, you got to live smart. It's not about just getting those one numbers, getting your bench, getting this. It's like if you're trying to get a total, you've got to go into the meet like, okay, how do I actually preserve energy throughout the whole meet to be able to finish it? Even if I missed a 600 bench, if I could have gotten 585 real clean and then just got like a 500-pound opener on deadlift, I would have completed a total. And if that total was more than the next guy, I would have won. And
Yeah.
that would have mattered if I was worried about total. I was not. So, lesson learned. But I went back home, kind of tail between my legs, because a good buddy of mine and training partner was like, "Hey, I'm gonna just tell you straight up, man. You did not get a 600-pound bench this last weekend. You failed." And I went, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "You got to complete the meet." And I went, "I'm a bench presser." He goes, "No, no, no. That's not how that works." He goes, "You need to go back, do it all over again, and get a 600-pound bench officially, or else you're not going to be able to count that." And I went,
Oh man.
like, dude. And I knew what it was. It was in the books. It was actually, they had registered on Open Powerlifting. And before that, there was another, like Michael Song's top 20 list. And it was in that record. And so I was, in my head, I was like, dude, it's right here. Look at this. But of course, I'm a guy that likes to prove people wrong and live up to a challenge. So he's like, "Hey, man, you really got to go back and do this." So in my head, I'm like, crap, I got to prove the world that I'm a 600-pound bencher still. I'm not there yet. So I went back, started training more, doing my squats a little better, training right with my deadlifts. And obviously my bench kept going up. Well, I say obviously, it's not obvious, but I was training at a fitness connection, so it wasn't the best equipment by any means. I didn't have all the top notch stuff that I have now, but I went back and immediately had this thing to prove. And so the first day back, I'm like, well, let me back up. When I didn't get my opener on deadlift, it was because I tore my lat. So add
Oh,
a
geez.
little bit more to the story is I came home and I had this big gash look like on my lat when I took my shirt off. My wife was like, dude, it looks like somebody whipped you. And it was all bruised. And I'm thinking, okay, that must be a muscle tear. I don't know what that feels like because I've never had one before.
Right.
But I was coaching or I was training with Coach Josh Bryant, and I took some pictures of it and showed him. He goes, "Yeah, man, you should probably back off on anything with your back just for a couple weeks." Well, in my mind, I'm like, okay, I guess I got to back off everything. I'm just going to do 225 on bench, and I went in, did like one rep of 225, and went, "That felt pretty good." I texted my coach. He goes, "Well, try 315. But don't push it, but just see what happens." 315 went up for many reps. I was like 10 reps of it. I was like, "I'm good to go." He goes, "All right." He goes, "Well," he goes, "you're smart enough to figure this out." He goes, "If you hurt yourself, you'll never lift again if you really hurt yourself, and you'll never get 600." He goes, "So just be cautious." And of course, I took that and went, "I'm young, I'm dumb, I'm smart. You know, I do all this stuff. I'm going to go in here and do what I got to do." And I ended up doing two sets of 630 pounds for one.
Wow.
And it blew my mind. I'm
Crazy
like,
numbers.
holy crap. I just came off of an injury. I just, did 611 in a meet. So I'm like, they're feeling good. And then I tried 630 and got it. I'm like, dude, I gotta get somebody over here. I gotta, because the goal for the day was at that point was, okay, let's double whatever my goal is for the next meet. And my next goal was all of a sudden 630. Don't ask me where I really made that up other than just hitting like 600 in the rack. I say in the rack because I was benching in a squat rack at the time because that's the safest way I could do it by myself. And I ended up inching up. I went to 615. I went, oh crap, did the 630. And there's videos of this on YouTube, so you can check them out.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, coach, you don't believe what just happened. He's like, it's time to do a meet. So he picked a meet that was like December, middle December of that particular year, which was like 3 or 4 months after the national meet, which was like October of that year. And to me, it was like the next day because I was training so fast and everything. And I was like, okay, well, I got to be careful with this. I can't go in there and do something stupid. So I was being real timid. I was like, okay, I'm going to open up with like 400 on squat and then go to 500 and then go to 600 and just make 100-pound jumps so that I can conserve energy. And I'm like, okay, on bench, I'm just going to do the same thing. And I ended up doing, I don't remember all the numbers, but I was creeping up about the same. And I finally went through the 611 and I took it smaller. So I basically started with like 550 as an opener, nailed it, went to 585, nailed it. I was like, ooh, let's go 611 and see if I could break that again. 611 went up. I'm like, oh, can I take a fourth? And they're like, absolutely. I was like, okay, what's the next jump? So I started kind of looking at the kilo chart, kind of counting, okay, I've done 4, whatever the blocks are on the kilo charts. Like I've done 4 of those to get to 585 and then 4 of those to get to 611. So naturally I should go 4, whatever it is. And whatever that number is, I'm just going to do that. And I didn't know what I was doing. I said, 633, let's just do that. Put it on there. I unracked it and I'm like, God, this is heavy. Like it was so heavy. I had never even, well, I guess I never really felt that kind of weight because I only did
Yeah.
630 in the gym, like, I don't know, a week prior. And so I never held that kind of weight in my hands. And so my brain was like, no way, bro, you're done. So I went into survival mode and just went through the motions and it went up and I jumped up and started screaming and I was like, yeah, it's all on video. It's all out.
It's all documented.
It's all out there. And that was when it really clicked for me. I was like, dang, I'm actually really good at this. And there's a lot of people that think the same. I've got to keep pushing this. And so that's when I kind of buckled down and went, okay, I guess I'm in this. I remember messaging Ed Cohen on Facebook and saying, "Hey, did you see this?" And I sent him the video. He goes, "Looks like 650 is the next goal." So he just set the next goal for me. And I'm like, okay, I guess that's the next goal. And then I was chasing 650 for a while and ended up doing, I think the next time I lifted was the Tuscaloosa meet. And that was when I went through 661. And that's what really, for me, that's what set the difference between like, okay, I'm a really good bench presser into like a whole nother, hey, you're going to make like waves for a long time because of the weight you're doing right now. Like you're going to be a legend in this sport. The way that you look up to Jeremy Hornstra, Julius Maddox, whoever these guys are, I was like, okay, now I'm among them and I have a responsibility to keep lifting this way. And so the natural progression for me was, I guess it's got to be 700. And so I set this bar even higher. And if I'm being honest, I probably would have set that a little lower earlier just so that I could chip away at the heavier weights. Because when you start getting in that kind of territory, I mean, even right now, there's one person on the planet that can smash 700 pounds, and it's Julius.
Yeah.
Nobody else is walking around right now, as far as I know, can just lay down under 700 pounds and smoke it right this second. So that's where I was at. And I was like, okay, I can smoke 650 any day of the week. I'm always training with, 600 plus, and this is just a normal day. I didn't realize that jumping to 700 pounds at the next meet, even if I was totally in shape, was probably irrational, just because my body weight, I mean, I've never been a super crazy heavyweight lifter. Never been much over 300 pounds at all. In fact, all my competitions are under 300 pounds. And that became kind of the standard for me was I want to look like an action hero, but bench like the best of them. And so I always set limits on myself because I had certain standards. So looking back kind of at everything, I've learned a lot with how I've lifted and how I've chosen weights and stuff. And I don't regret anything, but there's some things that I definitely would have tweaked a little bit more to get further along than I am now. Just because in the last couple of years, I've gone through my own set of struggles. And um, I guess I'll go on record. If you guys don't know, I had a stroke, minor stroke in June of 2022. And that set me back big time, not just mentally, but physically. And so I've kind of just been nursing it back since then, because to me, lifting has always just been kind of a product of, oh, I could just do this and it's always there. When you're hit with something like that in your life and priorities start to get shifted and you start really going, what really matters? To be honest, I just put lifting on the back burner for a while and said, I got to get my life straight. I got to get back on my feet in a lot of other areas before I could really put my all back into this, because I'd never cared, or I guess not, that's not the right word. I've always cared about everything else. I feel like my priorities have always been straight. But when things get shifted and you're forced to kind of look at it through a different lens, you start to realize, I didn't have every single thing buckled down perfectly. And that's where I'm really like, okay, I'm a perfectionist now. So where technique's got to be on point, energy levels, food, I mean, all the stuff I'm counting now, keeping track of cholesterol, obviously for stroke reasons, stuff like that. And I can't just go out and eat Mexican food every single night just to kill calories. I've got to go, let me look at this in a different light and kind of just approach lifting without it being like this gift that's always there. It's more like, okay, today I was supposed to do squats. And to be honest, I pushed it off because I had other stuff I was working on work wise and stuff that takes my attention away. Used to, I would have just made it a point to be like, no matter what, I got to get a workout in. I got to push this. And I think that redlining for so long, mixed with a lot of other things, can be detrimental. And I've never wanted to be the type that's like, I got to put all my eggs in this basket in order to do this. not that there's anything wrong with that, because I know there's lifters out there that do that and their whole life is dedicated to benching, let's say, and they'll run over anybody, they'll tackle whatever is in their way to make sure that that bench happens no matter what. And that was me to some degree for a while, and I backed off of that tenacity just to make sure that I'm here tomorrow and the lift doesn't really matter if you're not. So that's kind of in a full scale. That's kind of from A to Z where we're at now. So what I've really tried to do lately is focus on more like walking the walk a little better. And
Right.
I know what it feels like now to struggle with weights that mere mortals are supposed to struggle with. And before, I had no clue. I was so oblivious that 400 plus pounds on bench was supposed to feel heavy.
Yeah.
So when I would warm up, I would just throw it off of me like it was no big deal. And then when 500 came along, I do the same thing. And then 600, it would look like, oh, this guy's just manhandling 600 pounds. And that type of lifting, I'm not going to say it's not there anymore, but the weights don't move near as fast as they used to. And that's a little bit of a hard pill to swallow, but it allows me to really focus on the things that matter in life for sure, and not be distracted with, oh, I got to go get a 500 for 5 bench set today,
Yeah.
versus, taking care of some stuff around the house and, making sure the family's good and whatever. But that's kind of the full story, hopefully in a nutshell.
Gotcha. I agree. I was going to mention too, I agree totally. I feel like I'm kind of in that boat too. It's so easy to get distracted when you see that progress and you're knocking out these PRs and you're making this progression, and it's just like that's all you're focused on. And you start to see everything in your life, in the background. Essentially is in the background. It's like I got to get to the gym. I can't do anything else. I got to get this workout in first. I'm kind of like in that state right now too, where it's like just this level of maintenance of, if I don't get to it today, I got it tomorrow, right? And just taking care of other responsibilities. So yeah, I definitely get that.
Yeah, and also like your bounce back too from you having that stroke and everything, and just trying to eat better and all that. It's just harder to get like enough calories in to try to get heavier and to try to lift heavier, because obviously the heavier you are, the heavier you can lift, and that's just hard. I mean, that's something that me and Devin have tried, like when we're trying to gain weight and stuff. If we're trying to do it cleanly and not have a bunch of crap all day, that's just really difficult. So I totally get that.
Oh yeah, for sure. I know, some people have asked me lately, just through Instagram and things like that, how much I'm weighing, and my weights have been down lately because my body weight has been down, and I've never really had to worry about that before, because for the most part I was sitting comfortably between 265 and 285, just existing. I didn't really put a lot of thought into, oh, I've got to keep bulking, or I've got to make sure that I'm getting this many calories in, or I'm eating this much protein, or these are my macros. I was just kind of going, and it worked great until you realize, oh, the docs were like, hey, you got to come in. And, I went to the hospital because my wife was noticing that was some things were looking off on me. And I thought, I'm invincible. I mean, I didn't say that obviously, but I'm thinking,
You feel that way.
I feel great. I've got a 500-pound bench press this week. That's my standard. I'm healthy. I'm good to go. And we went into the emergency room, and I'm thinking I'm just going to go in there, have my blood work done. They're going to check me out and go, hey, you're good. Just, keep an eye on things. Doc comes in like 4 hours later and was like, Mr. Strickland, we show that you had a basal ganglia infarction. And I'm like, okay, you're going to have to explain that to me. I don't know what you're talking about. She had a stroke. And I went, what? Like, I was so I could not believe it, because I'm thinking, who are you talking to? Like, I'm sitting here talking to you. I'm walking. I'm not paralyzed. I didn't know what that should look like. And he essentially said, look, we're going to check you in. We're going to keep you for observation, at least for the night. And then we can figure out from there. And I thought, okay, well, I guess I'm getting a quiet night in the hospital. And they did all these tests and everything. They were shooting me up in the stomach with all sorts of blood thinners and essentially treating me like I was going to die. And I'm
Wow.
like, why are you guys doing this? Like, why you got 24/7 nurses coming in, checking on me while I'm sleeping? My kids got to see me in a, not that it's a good thing, but like in a hospital bed looking weak, which that doesn't, their dad, they never see their dad in that light. So it really made me reflect and go, did I do this to myself? Like, is this all my lifestyle that's doing this? And I started going back and thinking, what am I doing that is would cause this? And the only thing I could think of was that I wasn't eating maybe right, and the pressure that the weights were putting on my body were so
Mm.
great that it popped a blood vessel or something like that. I really didn't know what was going on. And to this day, I couldn't tell you the event or when it happened or how it felt or what was going through my head or anything like that, because there was no single event that I could go, oh, that's what had happened. It's like, that's a heart attack. My heart stopped on that particular date and time. This is what I did. I fell to the ground, whatever. There was none of that. It was just, hey, babe, you're slurring your speech a little bit, and your mouth looks like it's drooping a little bit. And I know you have strokes in your family. And of course, I took that as, me? No, I'm good. What are you talking about? I feel
Yeah.
great. And, it was one of those things where um, she had a procedure medically done a couple years prior to that, or 4 or 5 years, 6 years prior to that. And it was because I was like, hey, we really should go to the emergency room and have that checked out. And she ended up having her gallbladder taken out, emergency surgery. And that was not super serious, but I mean, anytime you have an organ removed, that's pretty serious. And so it made us reflect on our marriage and be like, okay, if you have that intuition about me, then maybe in the future, not that we want that to happen, but I promise to you that if you ever think something's wrong with me, I'll just no questions asked, go get checked out. And that's kind of the situation where I did not believe for a second that anything was wrong with me. I'm sitting in the hospital joking around, texting. I'm like taking pictures of the IV in my arm and
Yeah.
texting it to her and be like, hey, check this out. It's grossing you out. And just having a good old time. Not that it's fun in an ER, but I'm making the best of the situation, thinking tomorrow I got squats and deadlifts. That's where my mindset's at. I'm like, I gotta keep going. Um, and when the doc told me that, it's like the whole world just shut down. I'm like, so basically, really can't do much right now. It still didn't even process until the docs were coming into the room when I was in the hospital bed, like the next morning. And I'm like, when am I getting checked out of here? Because I got to get out of here. I got to go lift on Monday. I got bench Monday. And the doc was like, yeah, no, I don't really think that's, it kind of was one of the things where he didn't tell me right away, but the next time he came in the room, he's like, I got to tell you, he goes, I wouldn't lift anything for like 2 years, like literally 2 years.
2 years.
I don't know exactly what he said, but it essentially was like, bro, you're lifting the kind of weights that kill people. You don't need to lift ever again because this is probably what caused it. And looking
Mm.
at me, I think they were like assuming that I was on steroids and all sorts of stuff. And they were like, are you taking anything? I'm like, no, I'm no, take my blood. Like, we're good. And I felt like I was kind of defending my position at that point. But essentially, they were just doing what doctors do. And they were like, hey, we don't know what caused this and doesn't seem like you do either. So we want to take out all the risks. And so that's where the ball started rolling with me, where I was like, crap, I can't lift anything. I'm like, my lifting career is over. And so I started struggling with this image thing where it was like, okay, James Strickland, the 700-pound bencher, is no more. What does that make me now? And so I started going, crap, I can't promote that I'm a bench press guy if I'm not pushing these numbers. And it was a spiral effect. Um, Looking back on it, that's not true at all. But when you're told that type of news, it's like being told you have terminal cancer. You're like, okay, crap. What's next? Nothing. I have nothing to look forward to. It's over. And that's where my mind went. And so, literally, the next week, I would say, I was back under the barbell, trying to be safe. I mean, I was like, okay, I'm going to put a video camera on my face. I'm going to make sure that I'm not grimacing. I'm not doing any type of Valsalva maneuvers. I'm not holding my breath too long, which is almost impossible when you're lifting because if you don't stay tight,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
you can't lift. So I was literally like, okay, everything that I know about lifting, I have to throw out the window and just move the bar. And so I went literally all the way to a 45-pound bar and was struggling with the bar, mostly because my head. I had freaked myself out so much that I was strong enough to probably bench 500 plus on that day, 2 or 3 days after the stroke. In fact, I benched 500 within the next month, and that was pretty easy actually. But I set myself into this downward spiral of keeping a governor in place at all times. Like, okay, well, I can't lift 300 pounds because it's dangerous. So I'm going to try to lift 135 for 10 reps or 15 reps. And it was excruciatingly heavy and hard because I was psyching myself out.
Gotcha.
And I went, okay, you're nothing if you can't get to 500 pounds again, which is not true for anybody listening. That is absolutely not true. But in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, that's my standard of strength. I have to get back to that point. And it was an emotional thing when I did it because I was like, all right, I'm back. I'm not back, but I felt like, okay, if I can do 500, I'm better than almost everybody on the planet. And that sets the tone to a nice comeback story. So I'm like, all right, cool. We're getting back there. And what I was finding is that I still was attaching my image to what I was doing in the gym. And to me, I was being a hypocrite at that point. I was preaching, yeah, I'm almost a 700-pound bencher, but that doesn't make me who I am. But yet here I am over here crying that I can't barely lift 225, 300, whatever. And so I really started looking inward and going, what am I actually promoting here? Like, what's my point? What's my legacy? Am I going to keep going after the 700-pound bench? And if it's possible, is it smart to do that? Or do I just push away from the table right now and just try to be a healthy 40 plus year old man? And to me, I'm like, I ain't no bitch, man. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I to this day can't just push away from the table because I know that I've got a greatness in me. And I know that if I push my limits every day in a smart way, it's going to put me a little bit further than I was yesterday. And so that's where I'm at now. And so if anybody's been watching my Instagram and trying to see kind of where James Strickland is at, what's going on with the whole road to 700 or whatever, essentially what I'm doing right now is I'm maintaining. Let's see, the last few weeks I've been hitting about 320 on bench for multiple sets. So I'm not hitting it just for one. I'm doing like 5 sets of 5 with 320 just because the kilos do the math easier. And to me, that seems to be pretty manageable, even on my off days or when I'm not really feeling like right now I'm like 250 pounds. I feel like I'm skin and bones. So I'm literally lifting more than my body weight on multiple reps. And that's kind of the standard that I'm keeping now is like, okay, if I'm 250 pounds and I'm lifting, 320 or whatever, I'm lifting 70 pounds more than my body weight. And I'm not getting my protein in like I should. I'm not eating like I should. The last couple of weeks I've actually, last week we were trying to do the podcast. I was sick with the flu, I was sick with stomach virus, and just a couple things. And I'm like, I can't work out this week. And so I just didn't work out at all just so that I could get my energy back, heal up. Actually, that's a lie. I did work out and I did I think I did 100 or maybe 200 pounds for 10 reps. And to me, that was like a bad day because I'm like, man, I am struggling with 225 and I can do 60 reps with this on my best day. Here I am maybe getting, I say 10. I might have gotten 20 reps with that. But that was the only day I worked out last week. It kind of just was like, okay, I'm going to rest. I'm not going to do any legs. I'm going to do any cardio or anything like that. And just heal up. And yesterday, my days are all mixed up. Monday, I got in and I was like, okay, I'm going to do, and I don't know where this number came from. I've kind of gone off program. I was like, okay, 300 pounds, we're going to do 5 reps and we're going to shut it down for the day. And it was just enough to feel like I was getting a good workout in, but not pushing any limits whatsoever. And so that's where my training has been for about a month, just because I'm not trying for 700 right now, and I don't have anything really to prove other than to myself. So I'm not really worried about staying on my program and pushing like, okay, I've got to be at 500, I've got to be at 600, I've got to be at 450 or whatever. It's more of, I just want to make sure that I'm healthy for my family and for my friends, and that, what I'm doing in life is being supported by my lifting versus my lifting being the main focus. Um, and honestly, just saying that out loud kind of stings because I still am that 700-pound bencher that's looking to get that 700 pounds. But when life throws stuff at you, sometimes you just got to go, okay, what really matters? And
Hmm.
I don't
Yeah.
damn about 700 plus pounds if I can't be here for my kids.
Right.
I've got a story already. I've already got 672 pounds on the books, official, um, at 40 pounds more than, or whatever the math is, a few pounds more than I am now. And so if I'm struggling with this now, it just means, okay, you're a mere mortal that at one point was able to easily do immortal type stuff. And that's where we're at. If anybody's kind of watching everything, but we're still going strong. I'll tell you that much. What I've done is really worked on my mindset and the mental aspect of just life. And what I thought I had under control for a long time, I'm learning that I didn't. And that stings because I'm like, wow, if I would have had it under control, what would have been? And so I'm kind of in
Right.
hindsight, but that's where we're at now. I'm definitely on a journey of wellness and just being healthier. So I'm not really concerned about being the biggest guy in the room. I never really was, but not really honestly being concerned with the strongest guy in the room because if I'm being honest, I still am most of the time. And here I am complaining about it.
Yeah.
So it's a cycle. I mean, I go into, a local gym and I bust up with, like a 450-pound bench. And I'm like, God, this is embarrassing. These people know me as Swim Hack, the 700-pound bencher. And I'm over here struggling with maybe 407 or, maybe 450 or whatever.
Hmm.
And what I'm not realizing is that everyone in that gym is weaker than me and they're struggling to get to 315. And here I am complaining
Yep.
about being able to do 450 or
Yeah.
whatever.
We've talked about that. We've literally had that same conversation in the past that sometimes we get so caught up in stuff that we see on social media, our own weights. And when you
Yeah.
compare that to the typical gym goer, it's like to your typical gym guy, 315 is
Mm-hmm.
like an insane
Yeah.
bench. And
Yeah.
so it's like getting caught up into that is, it's
Yeah.
like you got to realize like your average people that are going to your local commercial gym, they're going to see 315. You're like, holy shit.
Yeah, like it's just not like normal, really,
Right.
for like the majority of people. Like just even benching 225, like how many average gym goers can actually do that don't train like that, you know? So it's just that mindset. So you just get in your head, you're like, okay, I got to keep improving, not realizing how abnormal it is to even lift these type of weights, especially the weights that you're lifting. Like that's just a rarity, you know?
Yep. And so, with that said, I mean, there's even a little bit of the other side of it as well. You could argue that if you still push the limits, it's like, okay, if that's not good enough, then sure, keep that mindset, but just keep a governor on yourself that's like, okay, yeah, I'll go for something bigger today, but I'm not ever going to take so much of a risk that I can't recover from it. And that's where I'm at now. And honestly, I think that's just maturity as a
Hmm.
lifter, as a man, and a man that's got other priorities outside of lifting that matter more. And so, yeah, it sounds like a cop out, and anybody that says that, screw you. But it's like, I don't know anybody that's at the level of lifting that I am that has said, dude, why are you giving up on this? Like, you look like you're just barely making it here. Like you're struggling with what you used to throw around for 50 reps for a set of 5 now. It's like, yeah, but I know that I'm going to be here for my wife, for my kids, for my grandkids, and I'll still have a wonderful story to tell, and I'll be a freaking jacked granddad talking about these stories.
Hell yeah.
And I still bench press 500 pounds, maybe not today, but with in the last 2 months, I did. Let's see, I squatted 500 for two at about 260 body weight a few months ago. I benched over 500 I've benched over 500 a couple times since the stroke, but the first year back was like struggling because I was telling myself these weights are super heavy. Don't do this. It's dangerous. The docs are not going to approve this. Your cholesterol is not under control yet. Your blood pressure is not quite under control yet. And once I started kind of doing all the right tests and making sure, okay, my blood pressure is actually below what it should be. I'm not having a lot of extra cholesterol. And my mindset was going, okay, you're feeling better. You're good. We can get on a regular routine. That's when things started ramping up again. And I went, okay, I kind of regressed for a while I was essentially going through this depression. And that's a tough thing to go through. So if anybody out there is going through something profound in your life and you're trying to stay in the weight room, I would say if you can do it safely, 100% stay in there because you need that stress reliever. But if you can't do it safely, get the hell out of there. There's no point. There's nothing to prove. And you're going to die trying to prove to the world that you're stronger than everyone else, which nobody cares. Like at the end of the day, unless you're the guy at the very, very top holding the record, the rest of you, you're just chasing a number. And what does it matter if you're chasing a number for somebody
Right.
else? And I got tired of hearing other people set these numbers that they were like, okay, this is what you are expected to do because of the past or whatever. And it's like, at the end of the day, if you're not paying my bills or you're not taking care of my kids and my family, get out of my face. Like, I mean, I'm not going to be a jerk about it because I like to think I'm somewhat of a nice guy, but I got tired of the world telling me what my standard needed to be. And so, yeah, I pushed away from the table for sure, but that's why I did it is because things that mattered more started rearing their heads. And I was like, okay, well, yeah, this is what really matters. And so, if there's any message that I would try to get out right now, it would be that if you're going through that, then for sure you want to take care of numero uno first, because who cares what you could lift if you're not able to live.
Yeah,
Yeah.
essentially. I get that too. 100%. It's like, you have all these other life responsibilities. And at the end of the day, like, yes, this is what we do. We lift and we enjoy the progress and the process. But it's like, we have other responsibilities. We have other things that we need to make sure are in line, our health, our family, our friends, and last thing we want is to be in the gym. We hurt ourselves. We're out of work now. Right.
Yep.
So it's like just being cautious and taking
Yeah.
care of everything else and just, yeah, I mean, make your progress, still get in your workouts hard, but it's like realize at the end of the day, you're a human being. You got other responsibilities you need to tend to.
We always just expect to have tomorrow and everything.
Yeah.
We've talked about that before, but just realize like that's not guaranteed. Just live in the moment and take care of
And
yourself.
especially with you too. I mean, you're at elite level numbers. And like you were saying, you've established that credibility with your numbers. I mean, like you've been there, you've been that guy. So it's kind of, I can see what you're saying at this point. It's like, well, I have not much to prove. Like I've been there and I've done that.
Now I say that, but at the same time, the go getter attitude in me is like always turned on.
It,
So
it's the lifter mindset. We get hard headed.
it's very difficult to say the mature thing and say, hey, the lift doesn't matter, when knowing damn well that if you don't like get the lift, you're going to be kicking yourself for it. I mean, I think that's healthy. Just don't beat yourself up so bad that you end up messing things up more because you
Yeah.
can't stay in line with what the goal is. I mean, people lose sight of the actual goal trying to get to the goal. And that's very easy to let all the little nuances in life slip, because to hold an elite level lifting career for more than a couple years is almost unheard of. But to do that while being a very successful business owner, a dad, a husband, all the things, and then staying really, really good at all of those things to the level that I was wanting to stay good at, it's damn near impossible to do that and to really be good at everything. You're going to mess up something. And that's where I think when you start getting older and you start getting more mature, you start going, well, okay, if I miss a workout today, yes, it's going to be detrimental if I'm training for a meet next week. But if I'm not training for a meet right now, let's just make sure that blood pressure is good, my blood levels are good, My mental set is good. I'm able to be there for my kids, be able to be there for my family. And if I can get a really good lift in this week, that's a win. And it sounds like a cop out if you look at it that way. But again, what's your priority? I mean, if
Mhm.
lifting 700 pounds is only your priority and you don't get 600, yeah, you're failing. But that's not how you look at things. I mean, that's not how you should look at things, because now you're a one trick pony and you're only worried about lifting. I don't respect that. And I mean, if that's you out there and that's all you're
Hmm.
doing, take it as you will. I mean, I respect a different level of person just because I know what it's like to hold on to those kind of things and not be able to get them. It's okay to walk away from the stupid stuff in life if it's not benefiting you. And if you lifting 500 for 10 is somehow benefiting you enough to warrant maybe slipping up on other areas of your life, then you got to make that choice and live with it. So if that's the case, I can respect that. But if you're doing it carelessly and you're thinking, this doesn't matter, it's going to catch up to you and it's going to bite you.
Yeah, I think it's easy to get consumed by it sometimes. And with lifting, when you're so deeply invested into it, it kind of becomes your identity. Like you were touching on a little bit earlier, it's like, well, this is who I am. I bench this, I squat this, I deadlift this. Like, I'm that guy. This is what I do. This is who I am. So when you get sick or, shit comes up in your life, you're like, well, I'm this guy in the gym. I'm this big, strong guy. And even to this day, when I talk to people about lifting, I kind of associate myself with those lifts I did back in the day when I was
Hmm.
heavy. I'm like, I used to do this. I used to be able to put up these numbers. And that's kind of, it became an identity in
Yeah.
a way where I would associate myself with that time. Like I was
Hmm.
putting up this number and that, and I was like 200 pounds in, and I still go back to that sometimes when I have conversations with people about lifting. And I remember throughout that time, it was like lifting was just kind of my identity. People would talk, they knew me as the guy, like, hey, we can get a program for him or some advice, or that's just what I was all about. And it's easy to get consumed by that.
Absolutely.
And it's just got to be hard too, though. Like with you, you have such a big like influence on Instagram and YouTube and everything. So
Yeah.
just going through that, and now you can't do these lifts that people are essentially expecting you to, and just following you along like your 700 bench. That's got to be hard to do. I mean, it's got to be hard to walk away from that, at least for a little bit.
Sure. So I guess I'll go on record and say that I haven't quite decided to walk away from it. So if people are asking,
Yeah.
there's still a glimmer of hope, but I am at this point going, well, okay, like I've been working through my own bench program. Go figure. I got to the point to where I kind of pushed away from Josh Bryant and said, hey, I don't want to waste your time. When I'm ready to compete again, you'll be the first person I call. Let's part ways for now. Let me just kind of do my own thing, because I know enough about lifting, and obviously I can coach people myself. I'll coach myself. I just don't prefer it, because then I've got to keep myself accountable, and that's a whole nother level of maturity, which I'm obviously at because I've been able to do it for the last couple of years just on my own. Um, but I hated having to pick the numbers and go through all the different things. So I went, okay, I've got these programs that I write for other people. Why don't I just literally take a page out of my own book and just follow my own program? And if it works out really well, then it's a great marketing tool, because I can say, hey, I worked back from an injury, from a setback, whatever, and this is what I used. I mean, what better than to promote your own program? Be like, it works for any level, not just a 700-pound bencher, because at this point, I am not that 700-pound bencher. I'm just
Hmm.
like you. If you're stuck at 315 or 400 or whatever, and you're trying to get to the next level, it's funny to hear me say that, because I know when I'm talking to people, they're contacting me and saying, hey man, I'm trying to get to a 275 bench. I'm at 225, been stuck there for 5 years or whatever, and I'm over here throwing around 300 for sets of 5, and that's a bad day for me. What I realize is I've actually got a pretty unique viewpoint that most lifters and coaches don't have, which is most of the lifters out there aren't coaches at the elite level. And so I've been able to coach people to over 700 pounds or to over 600 pounds on bench and be able to do it myself. But also, I know what it feels like to struggle with 225, 315, 400, whatever, and try to get to that next milestone and be what I wasn't before, which I was not struggling when I was working through the ranks to get the 600 pounds for my first powerlifting competition. Now, obviously, it was tough, but I wasn't struggling like I am now. And most people that saw me during that time were just like, I can't relate to this guy. He is way too advanced for me. Like, he's able to just toss around these weights like it's not a big deal. And now I'm at the point to where I'm just like them. I'm in the trenches and I'm like, hey, I'm struggling with 300 in my own home gym. And so what I've been doing is actually recording that and trying to keep track of my progress, even though I'll just say it's a little bit embarrassing. And I don't mean this in a bad way or derogatory to anybody out there that's struggling, with 300 pounds on bench, for me to say, oh, that sucks. Because I'm not reflecting it on you guys. I'm just going back to, this is the standard that I've kept for myself for so many years. If I'm not able to do what I used to be able to do, it stings a little bit. And so that's where I'm coming from with this. Right. And if somebody reaches out today and says, hey, man, I'm looking to buy your bench program, I'm trying to get to 375. Do you think it'll help me? I'm not really that strong. I could be like, dude, I know how you feel, bro. And I'm not lying. I'm not like, oh, man, last week I did 550 for 6 on bench and I struggled with 315 on a drop set. Like, I used to be that guy, but now I can be like, hey, I know what you feel right now when you get under the bar and it's 135 and you're just doing a warm up and you're like, God dang it, my chest is tight today. And I know what it feels like to second guess yourself and wonder, am I going to ever get back to this number, or am I going to ever get to the number that I want to get to? And that's where I feel like there's a big difference in the advice that I can give now as a coach. And I used to have this mindset of, I'm in the trenches with you, and I still have that, but now more than ever, like, I'm being shot at just like you are. I'm ducking down, trying to protect my butt. Get in here and let me show you what I'm doing, and maybe some of this will rub off on you and we can grow together. And so it has really made me a better coach and, I guess, advice giver, influencer to other lifters out there. Even though I went through a period of radio silence for literally 1 year to the day after the stroke. I didn't post anything on anywhere. And I was just like, nobody needs to know what's going on. I'm embarrassed. I can't do what I used to do. If I'm not out there doing what I used to do, people are going to ask questions. I don't want to answer questions. And that was part of this downward spiral. And after that, I went, nah, it's time to tell everybody what's going on, tell them what happened, tell them, how I'm coming back and kind of the journey. And so now it's more of a weekly progress report, and mostly on Instagram because it's short form, but I can edit videos a little easier than the long form, like on YouTube. But essentially I'll film a couple sets every week. And instead of it being like every single set's got to be filmed and I've got to make this big production of, I'm promoting myself, trying to build up to this next number. It's more like, this is just what's going on. If you guys care to tune in, great. If not, whatever. I guess if you're only wanting to watch the 700 pounds, then you're going to need to wait a couple more years, because I'm not even at the point to where I've decided to really push the pedal down now. But going through my own program, I went through my 24-week bench program, which is a pretty popular one. Shameless plug there. But I decided, okay, I'm going to get back on the horse and really push this. And I got up to, that's when I went up to 500 from about 350. Now, I wouldn't say that was my max when I started, but that's the numbers that I was working with. And essentially I said, okay, my max estimate is like 450. So we're going to use that for this 6-month program. And the goal is to increase from that baseline of 450 to something higher. And so I broke it down, and my program starts back at the hypertrophy phases. And so there was like sets of 8 for a while. And I've got all of this marked down I've got a home gym in my garage. And I started marking down numbers like, okay, 167 for a set of 10 was excruciating the first week I did it. And then the second week I was like, okay, got to bump it up. 225. We're going to do 225 for a set of 8, do that 3 times, and then do my accessories and the back work and all the stuff. And it was really slow going because I don't get motivated to lift 200 pounds anything. Like, it just doesn't get me excited to see less than 3 plates on the bar.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't go into the workout like, this is going to be a great day, I'm going to do a PR. I just was like, I'm just going through the motions right now. And for me, that was just a maintenance mode. But I got up to that 500 pounds. This was, I guess it's been a while now, but almost a year ago now that I did that. And so I decided, okay, I've done my program once. I got to a peak right at 500, backed off, and decided we're going to go and run this program again. And we're going to just go 550, just add 50 pounds. Um, Full transparency, I got about 8 weeks into the next 6-month program. And like with any program, you're going to hit snags along the way.
Yeah, for sure.
I got up to 400 for reps. Again, I know what I'm saying, but to me, I'm like, God, I didn't get that last rep. I failed. And the next week, I'm like, all right, I guess I got to do that last week's set again. And I failed again. And so I was like, okay, what's going on? And I started kind of analyzing things. And I'm like, dude, I weigh like 255 pounds. I didn't even know because I'm not paying attention to my weight every day. I'm just trying to stay healthy. I didn't realize that my body weight was actually affecting my lifts without me knowing it because I wasn't dialed in like I used to be all the time by default. And so I was like, all right, I need to start eating more. And so I just started eating more randomly. And then I started going, you can't just start eating anything you want. Like, you have to actually look at what you're eating. So it's been a cycle of just, I can't just go on autopilot and just eat whatever I want. I've got to go, okay, how much cholesterol is in this? Is this good for me? Is this not good for me? Is this fueling my workout? Is it fueling my ego? What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up just backing off and going, okay, if I can't change my diet in a moment's notice to be able to hop back on this bandwagon next Monday, which is my bench day, then I just need to back up a little bit. And that's where we've been for like the last month, is just limbo of, okay, it sucks to go much over 375 for anything. And so I just don't do it. I just back off and go, okay, well, what's the goal? Am I trying to be the next Julius Maddox, or am I trying to be the strongest James Strickland of today that I could possibly be? And it totally sounds like a cop-out, but when you're trying to live a healthy lifestyle and you're doing all these things, I mean, I've got 16-hour work days essentially. And I mean, I run my own business and I'm constantly in the driver's seat. So I don't really step away from the things that matter like I used to, because I'm like, I can't. And so it's more like, okay, well, if my bank account can reflect more financial success today than yesterday, that's a win. If I can make sure that my family is fed and that all of our needs are met with very little struggle, then that's a win. If I can bench 300 this week and 700 2 years from now, then I guess we'll see that when we get there. What I'm basically doing is rebuilding a lot and just kind of redoing the foundation for, I guess we can say, my life, if you want to get that far, and just kind of rebuilding the building blocks to be able to set up for the next shot at whatever that is. And it's going to be glorious, whatever it is, because I've gone through this learning phase and this kind of that dark area of your life where you're like, wow, this is a different thing that I knew was existing. And it makes you stronger for sure. And that's a little bit scary to say, because I never knew that I wasn't as strong as I am now until now. And so kind of looking back on hindsight, I'm like, wow, this is setting up for a pretty good comeback if I can set my cards right. And we'll see. I know one thing for sure, my back is definitely strong as it's ever been, but it's lost some strength due to the fact that I'm not having to put as much stimulus on it with lifting.
Hmm.
And when I started lifting, I was coming out of swimming, which built up my back and didn't even know it. Like I could bench 300 as soon as I stopped swimming because I was swimming, and only because I was a swimmer. I didn't lift very much at all, so I wasn't training in order to be able to be that strong in the gym. It was all swimming. So part of me's kind of wondered, well, if I got back to swimming, I could maybe build up some of the cardio, the endurance, and my back, and then the stimulus that I put on it when I am lifting would go that much further. So there's a lot of studying that I'm doing with
Yeah,
lifting that I never
that's
did
crazy.
before as an elite level lifter. I never studied the sport like I really should have. It was always, I'm just talented and I'm gifted with this. Let's just do this and see what happens. And a lot of it was just fly by the seat of my pants and just figuring things out. I mean, it worked out for a while, but until it didn't.
Right. And I think it's humbling, but it's definitely exciting too, kind of having that reset. By no means, like you said, you're not taking a step away. You're not stepping away, just kind of having that reset and setting more balance. And it is humbling, but it's exciting because it's like now you have another mission. It's like, let's build again. It's time to build, which we all know that's the fun process
Yeah.
is going through that training and building because it's like once you hit a PR, you hit the PR and you're like, what's next? Time to start another journey, time to start building towards something else. So it's like those training sessions is what we like and just having those building blocks we're setting up. So it is exciting having that newfound mission essentially.
Absolutely.
Talking about the swimming too, I would have never thought like you could take
Yeah.
swimming and then kind of comparing that to some benching and building up your back and just that stimulus. It's wild to think about it.
Yeah, yeah. Like I would never think of that. Like just all that cardio, swimming, and everything, and just jumping right into
Keeps you lean.
powerlifting.
Keeps you lean.
Yeah,
It's like one of the best forms of cardio.
yeah,
I started kind of analyzing the whole swimming thing when I found out that Jeremy Hornshaw was a swimmer and Eddie Hall was a swimmer, and I'm like, okay, what's the segue here? Like, what's different about us, and why would swimming even matter? And so I started kind of analyzing the sport more. And if you really think about it, when you're swimming, like let's say I went to swim 5,000 yards every day for the next 2 weeks. Now, mind you, I only weigh about 250 pounds right now. But when you're swimming, you're actually moving your hand like a tricep pushdown through the water many, many times. I mean, I know I would take about 10 to 15 strokes per length of the pool. And if you do the math, it ends up being thousands per workout. Doing that every single day for every weekday, sometimes twice a day, sometimes 10,000 yards a day, and then swim meets on the weekends and stuff like that. It was like constantly doing tricep pushdowns. And if you do the math, I mean, each hand and then the resistance of the water, you're probably doing about half of your body weight, but you're pulling, if it's 125 pounds, you're doing 125-pound tricep rope pushdown equivalent thousands of times per day. So that's the equivalent of doing like I don't know, 500 sets of 2 or 10 or whatever. And you're just maxing out your muscle endurance. And it gets to the point to where you don't even feel it anymore. It's just automatic. And that's just part of like, okay, you have to do this in order to swim to the other side of the pool. You don't really think this sucks, this hurts, this, whatever. You're just getting to the end of the pool. The result is your triceps and your back are ungodly strong, and you don't even know it because you don't really apply it. You don't go, oh, I need to get under a bench press after I swim and see how strong my triceps are. But when you do it, your triceps are far beyond everyone else's that are around you. And you don't realize it until you go to lock out whatever the weight is and it just flies up. And people are like, my God, how did you lift that so fast? It's like, I'm used to doing thousands of reps with my triceps every single day. And you put a weight in my hand, there's really no difference other than the range of motion and how I'm lifting it, what's going on. But that's the result of training a muscle group specific to the bench press in swimming. And so that's where my mind went, okay, this makes a lot of sense. My back is strong because you're using your back when you're twisting and moving through the water. and you're using your triceps the same way. So you're setting up this foundation for a perfect bench press as long as you do everything right. I don't see there really being a way, unless you just do something really, really stupid, that you could actually get hurt growing your bench press coming out of a swimming career. Because most people that jump into powerlifting, I mean, let's put the PEDs aside and all that, but they get in, they're like, oh, I did 300 pounds on bench. Let's just say that's the number. Obviously, it would be not lower. That's good enough, and you go, man, that's cool. But then you push a little bit further, and you're like, wow, 300 was pretty easy the first time I did it. 350 was not bad. Let's try 400. Oh, it happened, and you start kind of getting to the point to where you're like, am I unstoppable? Like, can I actually keep going? And having people around me that were doing the same thing didn't tell me a different narrative. Like, oh, hey man, people that go to the bench press, they tear their pec in the first year, and then they get set back for the rest of their life, and they're always worried about that injury and all this kind of stuff. I never had any of those. In fact, at this point, the only injury that I've ever really had that set me back significantly would have been this stroke that I don't even remember having. So it's almost all in my head. And that's, for me, that lesson is more than any physical lesson I've ever learned. Is just like, wow, if your mind is not right, you're not going anywhere. Like, you're stuck right where you're at. But if you can get your mindset right, you can go past any limit that you want.
We've mentioned it and talked about it, have had so many conversations about it. Starts with your mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if your mindset's not there, lifting, anything you do in life, I mean, you're already starting off on the wrong foot.
Yeah.
You got to think that you can do it. And essentially, you got to tell yourself, oh, I know I can do it. And there's just a lot of things. I mean, you got to have that clarity, and you got to have your mind in the right position to tackle anything. And if you don't got that, I mean, good luck.
If you want to say anything, any words of wisdom, as we say, to any of the viewers out there before we end the podcast.
This is more the old man style thing, but I'll just go for it and just push into it. But yeah, mindset. If you can get your mind right, you're pretty much unstoppable. If your mind is not right, you're pretty much stopping yourself right in your tracks. I would say, like, on days when you're thinking, okay, this is going to be heavy, I'm going to hurt myself, whatever. If you really feel that way, walk out of the gym. It's better than hurting yourself, because you can't, I say you can't, but you can't easily come back from tearing a muscle to the point to where it's detrimental to your lifting. You're always going to have that injury in the back of your mind nagging at you. And I have seen more lifters get washed out of the sport because of stupid things that could have been prevented. And I say that to myself. All of this could have been prevented had I just gone, I don't really care about my blood pressure. I really don't care about my cholesterol, but maybe I should just go have those checked. And I thought I was checking them all and had blood work and all that stuff every 6 months to a year. But it doesn't take more than a couple of days for those things to spike. And if you haven't had a blood test, to tell you what's going on with your body or whatever in the last 6 months, a year, there's a big lapse of time there that something could happen and creep up on you. And that literally, I want to say honestly, it could happen to anybody at any weight, no matter what you're pushing, what you're working on, how healthy you think you are. If the levels in your body are off, then they're off. And there's nothing you can do other than stop where you're at and just analyze it and say, okay, let me go talk to a doctor. Let me figure out, what do I need to do to correct this? And, if I had to look back on everything and regret something, I would say, yeah, I think if I knew what I knew now, obviously a couple months prior to the stroke, I would have gone in and been like, Doc, I've got this weird information from the future. Something's up with my cholesterol and my blood pressure. Let's check this out. And they probably would have taken it and been like, dude, your BP is like sky high and your cholesterol is sky high as well. What are you eating? Well, I'm eating Mexican food every 3 or 4 nights. I'm eating hamburgers and French fries and drinking a lot of soda. I'm lifting a lot, though. I'm freaking a beast in the gym. The doc would have probably been like, hey, bonehead, what matters to you? Like, if you knew in the next 3 years where you're going to be because of the choices you're making right now, would you make them still? And if you can, more power to you. That means you're freaking more hardcore than I've ever been, and you're willing to just go out there and face the music. No lift has ever been that important to me, so I would not make that choice. But it's definitely something, if I'm talking to the younger lifters out there that are like, man, I'm invincible. I'm taking everything under the sun. I don't care about this. I don't care about that. It only matters when I'm lifting. It will catch up to you 100%. And it may not catch up to you when you think it's going to catch up to you. Like these guys that are like 20 years old, taking everything under the sun, and, maybe they're lifting 500 pounds. Maybe they're lifting 6. I doubt it. There's not a lot. But if that's you out there and you're freaking pushing the limits, great. If that matters, then do it. But if it matters less than your health and your future, then back off a little bit. You'll have time to actually do some crazy lifts if you do it the right way. It's not going to happen tomorrow because you're going to have to be a little more patient. But seeing guys like me and Larry Wheels and all the heavy lifters, it looks like we're constantly able to lift these crazy amounts of weights because that's what we put out there on Instagram. That's what gets the views. And if I'm being honest, I don't really care to post, I struggled with 315 pounds or whatever this week, because that's not the James Strickland everybody knows. That's the real one. That's this is what this guy's going through, and he's still at it. This is kind of crazy because most people that have had a stroke, they're not lifting ever again in their whole life. So I've got to count my blessings where I'm at. But at the same time, it's like if you're at that point where you're thinking, I don't need to worry about tomorrow, when tomorrow comes and you're not healthy or you're not able to do what you can do today, that's when you're going to be like, that sucks. I really should have made a better choice. And that will inevitably happen to just about everybody, especially if you're being careless. I was not being careless as far as I'm concerned. I was being pretty smart, and it still crept up on me. So if it can happen to me, it can happen to you. I think that's the biggest takeaway from this. But at the end of the day, what I'm trying to do is just talk to guys a little more real than I used to, because I'm more relatable now. They look at me and they go, I'm about your size. It's like, yeah, you say that, but if we got next to each other, my mindset is I'm going to crush that 500-pound bench over there. Most guys' mindset, they're going to be like, kidding me? I could maybe do like 405 for one. So don't get me wrong. I'm still the same guy. It's just I'm more careful with things now, and I calculate risks a lot more effectively than I used to. So if anything, it's just that wise old lifter.
Well, thank you so much, man.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Great conversation we had with James. It was really interesting and cool to talk to an elite level lifter about sometimes the importance of taking a step back. James made a lot of progress, 672-pound bench, trying to reach a 700, but some things in life came up, some medical concerns. So just understanding the importance of, hey, it's okay to take a step back, do things safely, make sure you're healthy at the end of the day, and balancing that with other life responsibilities.
Yeah, and just with all the weights he's doing now, still is super rare.
Still impressive.
Yeah. So, all right, Devin, don't yell at me, man. I'm just gonna test it. Yeah, they're kind of dead. So, all right, well, man, Devin. All right.
We've already known this.
Yeah, we've known this. All right, well, thanks guys for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.
Peace out.